I grew up in a small Methodist church in Oklahoma. Faith was just a part of who we were growing up. And when I had babies, I took them to church, where I used to help out in my church in the little ways. You know, you could always count on me for a covered dish. I had 5 good recipes. Right? You know that? I was a law professor, so just a baby law professor just getting started, managing these 2 little babies of my own. And the preacher comes up to me and he says, Liz, he said, I need your help on something. And I'm like, I'm good. 2 casseroles, you know? And he said, I need you to teach the 5th grade Sunday school class. And I thought, do I look like I was born yesterday? I said, no, Pastor, I said, I don't need no 5th graders. I put babies, I teach law students. I've never done 5th grade. He said, long as nobody gets hurt, just fine. So he stays on me, one might say, he persisted. He said, I really need you to do this. He said, I need you to do this. So I said, okay, I can do this. So I figure out exactly how this works, right? You come in, you do a little Bible verse, you do a little art project, you give them some juice and cookies, and you send everybody home. And I thought, I could do this. I could do this. Within the first 3 weeks, the boys had figured out they could climb out the window. And I am not kidding you, the girls cut each other's hair. And one of my art projects went so badly awry that the children were actually dyed blue in the area. I just have no control over what's happening. It's a mess. So I thought, okay, there's one thing I know how to do. I know how to teach Socratically, because that's how I teach a law school class. They're 5th graders. How could that be different from law students? So I walk in on a Sunday morning, and I'm ready. And I hand them all around a story that's been printed, a story of Noah. And I say, you got 10 minutes to read this thing, and then I'm going to be asking questions. Is that loving Sunday school teacher. I said, all right, come on, I'm checking it. So there's some, wiggling around and so, but they actually start reading. So I started with the first question. The first question was, so how do you think Noah felt when he heard the word of God? Okay, giggle, giggle, giggle. He thought he was losing his mind. He thought there was somebody talking behind the tree. Oh, we thought there was a talking worm in his ear. So they had some fun. But then they actually engaged the question. How would it feel if you're just kind of living your life and you actually hear the word of God? And by golly, these kids got into it. So we're in the middle of talking about charity at one of our Sunday events. And so we're talking about charity, talking about a story in the Bible, a story from the New Testament. And I just asked the question about the difference between charity and the things we owe to each other. Not the things we give, but we could freely withhold. The things we give because we owe them to each other. And so I asked the children, name something we owe to each other. And like 5th graders, they started with a lot of things in their own experience. Not to hit each other. I'll take that. Not to push people down. One of my all-time favorites, not to put boogers in your brother's food. Note to self, do not eat at their house. But there was one kid in the room, and he was a big kid. He was big for a 5th grader, but quiet. And I turned to him and I said, Jesse, answers that just land somewhere in your heart. And they just stay there. And the way I read that is what Jesse was saying, at least to me, is there is God in every one of us. God in every one of us, whether we are rich or poor, black or white, tall or short, young or old, gay or straight, male or female, there is God in every one of us. And so it's thinking about Jesse that reminds me what I fight for every single day. I fight to uplift and protect the divine in every single person. I'm here today because, like you, I believe that everyone has value. And like you, I don't just believe that everyone has value. I am determined to fight for respect for everyone's value. I wanted to be here with you today because we are called. We are called to be the defenders of the defenseless. We are called to be the voice of the voiceless. We are called, and here's what matters, we have answered that call. That is why we are here today. I know that literally I am preaching to the choir. And believe me, preaching to the choir is better in my case than singing with the choir. It was also in that Methodist church I grew up in where the choir master, whom I love, would say, Betsy, honey, just a little softer. No, sweetheart, just a little softer. But just, honey, just a little. I love choir. I think of how hard these times are, and yet I wake up every morning an optimist. Think about what we saw the day after the presidential inauguration, when millions of women and friends of women took to the streets for the biggest protest march in the history of the world. Think about that. The fight to protect our democracy, the fight to protect our most vulnerable is now kicking into high gear. We see it in the ongoing fight to protect dreamers who live among us. We see it in the protests organized by students from Parkland, Florida, who demand and we see it as we fight back against those who hand out giveaways for the wealthy and then cut help for everyone else. The fight against those who stuff the pockets of the rich and then cut the public budget, stealing health care from millions, taking food from the mouths of seniors, and slicing critical programs that sustain our people when they get old or fall on hard times. Make no mistake, the fights we're engaged in require every ounce of strength we have. But these are righteous fights. When we fight righteous fights, we do not tire. We do not get distracted. We do not lose heart. When we fight righteous fights, we get stronger with every battle. I will fight because I believe. Because I believe that there is God in each and every one of us. I believe that the Lord calls on us to act. And I believe that when we do act, the Lord will take us into the fold and give us the strength we need. I will finish with the hope of Galatians. 6:9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint. It is a blessing.